Okay, welcome everybody back to the Raiders roster report. This is Raider Sparks here. I know last time we spoke, we went over the top five possibilities or the best candidates for the 17th overall pick for the Raiders. I know in the last video I mentioned I'd come out with my best second round options for the Raiders, and I will do that. It'll be coming out shortly. But tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about the salary cap space and kind of where we're at. Kind of go through some of the rumors that are going around. Obviously, a lot of talk about signing Richard Sherman and a free safety, and just want to kind of break down a little bit about what that actually kind of looks like. So, thought we'd get into it a little bit. This will be a quick episode, and hopefully enjoy it. And then we'll get into on our next broadcast. We'll get into the second round, most likely possibilities for the Raiders. So, if I look at Sport Track, I know a lot of people go to Over the Cap. There's a bunch of sites to go to, but I kind of just went to Sports Track here to take a look at the number. And all 51, our cap space is $3.6 million, and it looks like our draft class is going to cost us around $8.5 million. So, but looking at the overall picture of things, so if we just stay in real time, we don't worry about the draft class for now, and we just kind of take a look and say, hey, you know what? I want to go ahead and sign a safety. Free safety, and let's say it's Trey Boston. Well, Trey Boston is probably going to come in around $3 million, $3.5 million, somewhere in that range, I would suspect. And so if it's him, if he's the candidate that the Raiders select, then we've got to cut somebody because we don't have to cut anybody. We have 3.6. It basically puts us right at the cap. So that's kind of an easy one to do. However, if we go ahead and we take a look and say, hey, Malik Hooker maybe is a better option, I think it is a better option, but he's probably holding out for $5 million. Let's just say we need to give him $5 million to come on the team for 1 year. I think it's worth it. So we have 3.6, so we need another 2.4, which means we'd have to go ahead and cut either Jalen Richard or Jeff Heath. Jalen Richard's at $3.5 million. Cap savings, and Jeff Heath is 3.1. Probably most likely in that scenario, since we're bringing on a safety, we'd probably cut the other safety at 3.1. Maybe. Our safety depth is really lacking, so it may be Jalen Richard, or you can look at pick a couple other guys. Arden Key, save 2.2. But if you do two players, it's not a true savings, and I'm going to get into that in a second here. So we went ahead and let's just say now we want to go ahead and let's say we just want to add Richard Sherman. Just to pick up Richard Sherman, I don't know, I've seen reports out there, $7 million, $9 million, $12 million. I mean, let's just go with $9 million. Let's just say, you know what, Richard Sherman, his value, the Raiders' value for 1 year to come in and help this team out is $9 million. Well, we have 3.6, so that's a difference of $5.4 million we'd have to come up with. Yes, we can go ahead and do Jalen Richard, $3.5 million, no problem there. But we'd also have to cut Jeff Heath as well. That $3.1 million. We need 1.9, but that 3.1 million that we'd save with Jeff Heath is actually less than that. It's actually only about 2.2 million, because the bottom 51 person would come up. Jalen Richard, we'd get the full 3.5 savings, but we're bringing on one player and having to cut two, which means our bottom 51 guy would have to come up and take that spot. So instead of getting the full 3.31 million, we'd only get about $2.2 million dollars for him. But it would allow us to bring on Richard Sherman. So, I mean, if you take a look at the top 7 guys that we could cut and save money, Jalen Richard's $3.5 million, Jeff Heath $3.1 million, Brandon Parker $2.2 million, Arden Key $2.2, Mo Hurst $2.2. Nick Martin, who we just signed, we could save $1.5 million, and then David Irving $1 million. But the problem with that is if you have to cut multiple guys for just one player, the bottom, the guys that are just under the 51 mark come up, so you don't get the full true savings on each player. So we have 7 guys right now making $850K. So AJ Cole, Darius Filion, the new guy we just signed, Marcel Aitman, Rashawn Goldston, Dylan Levitt, James Onwuela, I'm not sure of his last name, but anyways, and Trey Quinn is all $850,000. So of the 7 guys, so even if you cut let's say you had to get two guys. You got Jalen Richard at $3.5 million. Great, that's a good savings. Let's say you thought, okay, I need $4.5 million. So we throw in David Irving. Well, not so fast if it's only one player, because if you do that with David Irving, you're actually only saving $150,000 off the cap. So it gets a little bit more entailed if you bring in Sherman. Obviously, you can look at going with Key, Arden Key to cut as well. So that kind of scenario. But then I kind of took a look and just said, hey, you know what? What happens if we say, hey, you know what? We want to bring on Malik Hooker and Richard Sherman. So what happens there? Malik Hooker at $5 million, Richard Sherman at $9 million. So we're looking to bring on $14 million and a cap hit. So what would we have to do? Well, Malik Hooker, we got 3.6, so we need 1.4. We cut Heath at 3.1 million. It's 1-for-1 there. And that gets us to a cap savings of 1.7, or it gets us to a cap at 1.7 below. Then we look at Sherman's. We need 9, so that gives us 7.3 million. Then, of course, we'd have to cut Richard, so that would be 1-for-1. That gets us to 3.8. Now we'd have to cut Arden Key. We'd only get 1.35 for that, because the 850 would come up. That gets us to 2.45. Then we'd have to cut Parker. That gets us another 1.35. That gets us to 1.1. And then we'd have to cut Mo Hurst. That gets us another 1.35, and it puts us, under the cap by 0.25. So if we were to bring on Malik Hooker and Sherman at, say, a combination of those two players at $14 million, we'd have to cut. We would have to cut Jeff Heath, Jalen Richard, Arden Key, Brandon Parker, and Mo Hurst to make the numbers work out. That's a pretty tall order to do. The other side of it is, too, you got to remember, that's just to get those players on the team. We still have a draft class to sign. So we're at about $8.5 million with our draft class. And given the numbers I just gave you, that really only leaves two players, Nick Martin and David Irving. That's about $2.5 million that we could cut. And it would be 1-for-1 because we're bringing in a player that would be making an equivalent amount. But the problem is now we have to look at other players who would actually move the needle enough to allow us to do it. Daniel Carlson, $3.3 million. We're not cutting him. Quentin Jefferson, we just signed him, $1.25 million. We're not cutting him. Trent Singh, we just signed $800K. Tanner Muse, we'll probably maybe cut him, but it's only $400,000 savings. Nevin Lawson, maybe with the suspension, $750,000 savings, and it kind of goes on and on. Carrier, $600K. Magnuson, $900K. So those guys that we can cut, but I'm just saying that we have to cut so many players just to bring those two positions on at that price point. So I know there's rumors out there with Clinton Dix and Vaquero from Tennessee to bring on, which will probably be a lot less expensive than Malik Hooker, maybe around the same as Trey Boston, maybe less. So that might be a viable option. And then Richard Sherman, I mean, that $9 million, $12 million, I don't see how that would possibly work out for the Raiders having to cut all those players. I don't mind cutting those players, to be honest with you. The only one I would have a little hesitation about would be Parker, because we're obviously kind of thin at tackle right now. Other than that, I don't actually think any of those players really have a place on the team. As far as Jalen Richard, we could replace him easy. Jeff Heath, we can go in the draft, and in my next video we'll kind of talk about safeties to replace, although we are really thin at safety, so that would be kind of questionable. Arden Key, no problem. Mo Hurst, I don't think he's going to make the team anyways. Nick Martin, no reason to cut him. We just signed him. And David Irving, I think he's going to be one of our 3 techniques. So that's kind of where we're at. But just wanted to break that down a little bit, give you guys a little taste of what it would look like if we go out and get what I feel is the best free safety on the market, Malik Hooker. And obviously the one that the fans, most people want, is Richard Sherman for our veteran cornerback, and kind of what that breakdown would look like. So hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel here, and be on the lookout for the next video on round 2 potential and most likely draft picks for the Raiders in the second round. Have a good night.